Precarious is sitting in Montecito right now waiting for a phone call. That is never ever coming. And I mean never. Because the number he used to dial to reach his brother, it doesn't work anymore. Harry didn't lose it. William changed it. Let that sink in for a second. Prince William literally changed his phone number so his own brother can't reach him. That's not a fight. That's not a cooling off period. That is a door being bolted shut. And honestly, this week proved William has been bolting doors all over the place. 4 separate stories dropped in a single 7-day stretch, and every single one of them points to the same man quietly enforcing the same rule. Once you're out, you're out. And it was never King Charles holding that line. It was always William. Let's start with the one that genuinely made me put my cup down. Angela Levin. And remember who this woman is because the Sussex defenders are going to come after her. Angela Levin wrote the warm, sympathetic Harry biography back in 2017, before Megxit, before Spare, before any of this mess. She is the witness Harry handpicked to tell his own story. She liked him. And this week, on camera, she said Meghan Markle has made Harry hate his family. Her words. She compared it to having a person in your life who tries to drown you. Drowning. That's the word the friendly biographer chose. When the character witness you selected yourself is the one telling the world your wife dragged you under, that's not a hit job, folks. That's the defense resting its case. And Levin didn't stop there. She read out something Harry told her himself years ago in his own words, that he felt he had a small window when people would be interested in him before Prince George took over, and he had to make the most of it. He said that 10 years ago. Prince George turns 13 next month. And Levin's reaction was basically, if Harry couldn't figure out how to do something meaningful in 10 years, she's got no sympathy for him. And honestly, same. He told us his fear a decade ago and then spent every year since making it come true. But here's the detail that ties the whole thing together, and Levin dropped it like it was nothing. At some point, Harry apparently asked William if he could help bring up William's children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, because he didn't want them to go through the same awfulness he went through. And William said no. Harry pushed, said, let me just do a bit of it. And William said, no, you keep away. I'm not having you anywhere near them. And Levin said she doesn't blame him one bit. That right there is the whole story in one sentence. The changed phone number, all of it, that's not a brother sulking. That's a father drawing a line around a nursery. William watched the drowning happen up close, and he decided the water is never reaching his kids. Now, the plan for this summer was supposed to be very different. Harry flies in for the Invictus Games in Birmingham. Charles softens. The cameras catch a nice little father-son reunion moment. Headlines write themselves. Everybody moves on. One name killed that plan stone dead. William. The reporting this week says a channel of communication has been quietly opened between aides, not brothers, and that King Charles, the actual monarch, has been reduced to sending a deputy secretary to try and patch up what his sons destroyed. Meanwhile, Harry sits in California watching his brother thrive, wondering when the phone will ring. And the answer, according to everyone who's spoken to sources on both sides, is that William has already decided not to make that call. Even if Harry somehow had the new number, William would not pick up. And here's the part that tells you how deep this goes. The reporting says the thing William will never forgive isn't the attacks on himself. Harry can rage about William all day long. It's what Harry put in print about Catherine. That's the unforgivable part. And what does Harry do with that information? He starts leaning on Catherine herself, through sources, through friends, through back channels, to broker peace for him. The absolute audacity of this man. He spends years, by his own published account, making Catherine's life harder, attacking her in print, and now she's supposed to be the one who fixes it for him? One commentator flat out said Catherine tried so hard for so long, and Harry threw it back in her face, and it's over. Finito. Just accept it, brother. Another one called him the Duke of Delusion, which I'm sorry is just brutal and also kind of perfect. And this is the same playbook Harry ran with Charles a couple of months ago, remember? He let it be known through a wink-wink source that he'd graciously accept an invitation to Sandringham, but only if Meghan and the kids were included. Only with full security paid for by the British taxpayer, and only if he knew exactly who else was on the guest list. A wish list. That's what one commentator called it. Harry stamping his feet and playing wish lists through friendly media sources instead of just picking up a phone like an adult. Except, oh wait, he can't pick up the phone because the number's been changed. The picture being painted of Harry's actual day-to-day life right now is honestly kind of bleak. One person joked that Nacho Figueras, the polo guy, is basically his only friend out there who isn't on the payroll. Like Harry standing at the edge of a polo field going, "Get off your horse and come talk to me, I'm lonely." It's sad, genuinely, but it's also a life he was warned about. He could have come back into the fold at some point. Instead, he sold out his family, became the exact kind of press intrusion he claims to despise, and burned every road home. And the one road that's left runs straight through a brother who has already given his answer. And while Harry's out there begging for a phone call, guess what he and Meghan spent this exact week doing? Reopening the one wound that proves there's no way back. Frogmore. So let's talk about Frogmore Cottage, because Harry and Meghan just will not let this one go, and the timing could not be worse. The sob story we're being sold goes like this. Poor couple, given a beautiful wedding gift from a loving grandmother, cruelly thrown out by a vengeful palace. Sounds tragic, right? Except every brick of that story is falling apart the second you look at the actual facts. Here's the reality. That renovation was originally paid for by the British taxpayer because Frogmore was supposed to be their official residence as working members of the royal family. Then they quit. They walked away from the working royal life entirely. Yes, they paid the renovation money back, credit where it's due. But their claim now is that the repayment came with an understanding they'd get to keep living there because the late queen gave it to them as a wedding present. Their fresh spin this week is that the queen wanted them to have the house forever, and that they were paying full market rent. And now, according to them, the crown is reversing every last renovation, brick by brick, basically scrubbing Harry and Meghan out of the brickwork. And you know what? Even the host telling this story refused to dress it up for them. The response was essentially, "What the monarch giveth, the monarch can taketh away." Especially after you've gone on international television and suggested the monarch's life's work is underlined with racism. The audience reaction was even colder. No sympathy. Not a drop. The general mood was, you didn't appreciate any of it, you trashed the institution on your way out, so why on earth should anyone care that you're hurt about losing the house? One person literally said, "Good, be hurt, that's what they need." Brutal. But after everything these two have said and done, can you honestly say the public reaction is surprising? You cannot torch the building and then complain about losing your room in it. And then, oh, this is my favorite receipt of the entire week, somebody dug up the 2016 tape. Meghan Markle, back in her Tig lifestyle blog days, talking about how her whole brand was the aspirational girl next door. Conversational, like talking to a girlfriend. Attainable, you could aspire to it, but you could actually afford it too. That was the pitch. That was the whole identity. She was the down-to-earth one rolling her eyes at $100 candles. Fast forward to today, and her own lifestyle brand is selling candles at $64 a pop. The woman who mocked the price tag became the price tag. And the panel did not hold back on this one. They called it obnoxious, flat out. One of them pointed out she's apparently even sent out candles that don't have a wick. Low-grade products at premium prices. Another said it perfectly. This new Meghan is the I'm better than everybody Meghan. She's not building a brand for the regular woman on a modest salary, the woman the Tig was supposedly for. She's building exactly the luxurious, exclusionary thing she once called obnoxious. She turned into that woman, the one she warned us about. And the wildest part is the brand keeps backfiring. Every launch was supposed to soften her image, and every launch reads like a woman lecturing the family that fed her about a lifestyle she walked away from. The public clocked this a long time ago, and they're not buying it, literally or figuratively. Now, while all of that is happening, Harry's supposed legacy projects are coming apart at the seams. And this one actually stings. Sent to Ball, the charity that was supposed to be his proudest achievement, at open war with its own chair, after everything Dr. Sophie Chandaka put out there. African parks hit with abuse allegations in the Sunday Times, the kind of story the old Harry would have flown out personally to fight. Archwell quietly shut down what was supposed to be his proudest chapter, and his military record, the one genuinely respected thing he had, dragged through the mud by his own memoir. Because he's the one who boasted about his kill count in Spare. Nobody did that to him. He did it to himself, in hardcover, for money. One royal writer called this whole collapse Harry's charity curse, and Angela Levin, again, the biographer who liked him, wasn't even letting him have that soft little word. Her point was basically, a curse is something that falls on you out of the sky. This isn't a curse. Charity work in difficult parts of the world is hard. There are land disputes, there are bad actors, there are vulnerable kids. You have to be sensible, you have to understand what's actually going on, and you have to manage it. Other people manage it. Harry didn't. This is down to bad management and bad behavior Full stop. He had 10 years, every door in the world wide open to him, the most famous redhead on the planet with infinite goodwill. And he spent that decade steering straight into the rocks with both hands on the wheel. And Levin's read on why is genuinely uncomfortable to hear because she's describing things she says she's watched. Meghan banging him on the back, not letting him talk when she wants to move on, criticizing him over all sorts of things, making him feel, in Levin's words, like nonsense, like he's been seated at the children's table while she's up with the main people. And Levin says you can see it on his face, that he can't push back, whether it's because he still loves her or because he simply cannot bring himself to say, whoops, I made a big mistake. She believes Meghan can manipulate him, and that's exactly what she's done. Again, this is not some anonymous troll with a ring light. This is the woman Harry sat down with and opened his heart to. So Meghan is in a footnote in why Harry is locked out of his own family. According to basically every report this week, she is the reason. And the verdict on what that means for her is permanent. One commentator said it plainly. There is no scenario, none, where William or Catherine can ever be around Meghan again. Which is why the same commentator doesn't believe Harry shows up to Birmingham at all. But if you think this is just about how William treats the brother who walked out, watch what he did this week to two people who never left. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, two women whose only real activity this year has been existing quietly, and hours before the only royal wedding of the year, a feud detonated right over their heads. The trigger was an official audit from the National Audit Office, and folks, the numbers in this thing are genuinely jaw-dropping. Beatrice and Eugenie have been living in some of the finest real estate in London for close to 2 decades, and for a huge chunk of that, paying nothing. And even now, when there is rent on the books, it's a fraction of market rate. And here's the kicker, the part that made my jaw actually drop. They don't even pay that discounted rent themselves. King Charles picks up the entire bill out of the privy purse, funded by Duchy of Lancaster income. So you've got 2 non-working royals, both married to wealthy men, both with careers and homes of their own, living in some of the most exclusive property on the planet, and the king is quietly covering the difference out of his own pocket. The optics could not be worse if you built them in a lab. And the British public, right now, in this economy, has run completely out of patience for it. One guest put it perfectly, it's rules for thee, but not for me, and people are insanely sick of it. The argument now is that Beatrice and Eugenie should just become private citizens and be treated like private citizens, full stop. And who's positioning himself on the right side of this? William, because William's response has essentially been, look at me, total transparency, my wife and I pay market rent on our forever home. £400,000 a year, we have the money and we pay it. He's drawing the contrast deliberately. And then one royal writer said the quiet part out loud with absolutely no varnish on it, and it's the line that should make every single Windsor flinch. The Yorks are a crime family. And in a crime family, the next generation gets drawn in. Sure, they may have been brought into it as children, but nobody 20 years later gets to argue they're immune to consequences. The writer's read on William is that he doesn't think Beatrice and Eugenie are guilty in a courtroom sense. He thinks they're contaminated. And in the age of the social media pylon, William understands something his father simply does not. Contamination, fair or not, is fatal. The advice being thrown at the two sisters was just as cold. If Eugenie and Beatrice had any shame or any sense, they wouldn't even show up to that wedding. Send a lovely present, skip the actual presents, because it's just too embarrassing. So sit with that for a second. William will freeze out 2 cousins whose only crime is the surname York and a father named Andrew. People who never give an Oprah interview, never wrote a memoir, never trashed the family on Netflix. If that's how William treats them, the idea that he's ever reopening the door for the brother who actually torched the place is pure fantasy. People keep asking when William will forgive Harry. That's the wrong question. This week told you William won't even forgive being in the same photograph. The man isn't running a family anymore. He's running a quarantine. And the first name on that quarantine list was never Beatrice. And honestly, it was never even Harry. It was Meghan. So you're allowed to ask the hard question here. If William is really this ruthless, freezing his brother, freezing his cousins, letting a house get gutted back to the studs, what exactly is he guarding that justifies all of it? And this week, without meaning to, he showed us, because a video came out of a cancer ward in Manchester, and it's the part of the story that stops being gossip and becomes something else entirely. Catherine, who has been through her own cancer recovery, standing beside a young mother of 30 as she rings the bell that means her chemotherapy is finally over. No press release, no brand launch, no camera crew choreographed to catch her best angle. Just Catherine telling this woman to stay strong, that it's going to be brilliant. That's it. That's the whole clip. And it brings tears to your eyes. It genuinely does. And the panel drew the contrast that, honestly, writes itself. They put that Manchester moment next to Meghan's hospital visit in Australia years ago at the Royal Children's Hospital, where the patients were carted out to her. Catherine went to them. Meghan had them brought to her. One panelist said the circumstances were absolutely identical and the difference was stark. Everything about Catherine was soft and meaningful, and about the people she was there to see, while the Meghan footage, in their words, was gross, with no humanity in those moments. One was performative, the other was actual. For a decade, we were sold this story that the warm, modern, open-hearted one married into a cold, gray institution. Turns out the warmth was inside the palace the entire time. It just doesn't run a lifestyle brand. So when people ask why William won't let Harry and Meghan back in, look at what the man is standing in front of. A wife who walks toward dying strangers and means every second of it. 3 kids who get to grow up out from under all of this. You'd change the locks too. So back to that phone in Montecito. Charles may still want his reunion. The aides may keep their little back channel open. Harry may keep dialing a number that no longer connects. But the man who actually controls the door has already given his answer, and he gave it 5 times in 1 week without saying a single word to a single reporter. He let the house get gutted, he froze the cousins out, he guarded the nursery, he let Catherine show the whole country what the real thing looks like. And his brother's call, he left ringing out into nothing. This was never Charles versus Harry. It was always William quietly deciding who gets anywhere near the 3 children carrying this family next. Rage burns out. This won't. This is just a door clicking shut and a name being lifted off a list. Once you're out, you're out. Ask the man with the changed number. So here's what I keep turning over, and I want to know what you think. Is William right to bolt that door for good? For Catherine, for his kids? For the whole institution? Or should a family always leave one door open, even for the person who burned the place down? Drop it in the comments, because I genuinely want to hear where you land on this one.